Yeah, we're on. Okay, so yeah, providing you with more quality content. Welcome to another um, Ghost Countries podcast. You have anything to say about that, Geist?
I don't know what to say to even improve that intro. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, fine. But we've been doing a little bit of a different format. This is only the second episode with that, where we include top comments and Q&A. So, of course, just like last time, if you guys have any questions you want to ask us, just comment down below, and we'll more than likely include it in the next one of these Q&A segments. But anyway, we're going to start out with our the Despotate
Podcast.
we're starting out with the podcast, and that will be on the Despotate of Epirus. So, as always, I'm joined by my co-host over in Germany, Geist. So, yeah, why don't you take it away?
Okay, so the Despotate of Epirus was a two-parter on our channel. I'm sure all of you actually know that because all of you watched our videos, right? They're worth watching it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, the Despotate were very good episodes, in my opinion. But yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Because the Despotate of Epirus, to be honest, when we started researching on them, I didn't expect too much because the name didn't sound too interesting to me, at least. But when I started digging into the matter and stuff, there was actually so much to uncover that I was like, okay, wow, I never expected that many things going on. I mean, we had basically so many key events in that episode, and that makes it actually very interesting. I mean, we had the rise of the Ottoman Empire, we had the fall of the Byzantine Empire, basically. We got the Fourth Crusade, we got the Mongol invasion, we had the Black Death. I mean, it's incredible how many events were actually impacting the area around the Despotate of Epirus.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
No, I was just going to say, to your point, I think we kind of milked Epirus for all that it's worth. I mean, we still actually have another video planned, but I did not expect as much behind the story of Epirus when we started, with the ancient state of Epirus and moved on to the Despotate. I didn't expect there would be this much behind it, but yeah, no, to your point, there was a lot to, get out of Epirus. It definitely was a ghost country that we had a lot more oomph behind it than I thought it would.
Yeah, definitely. So,
and I just want to bring up a point. Well, whatever. I just want to bring up a point, like you mentioned. I didn't even really know about the successor states. Now, I did know about some of the successor states, of course, but I didn't know the Despotate of Epirus or Thessalonica, name changed at times. But anyway, I didn't know, this was Epirus, and I didn't know it had positioned itself as a successor state to the Byzantine Empire. I thought that was a really interesting chapter because, well, it's just fascinating. And all those events you mentioned were interconnected. The Crusade, the collapse of the Byzantine Empire, the birth of the successor states, the eventual rise of the Ottoman Empire, the Black Death, etc., etc.
Yeah. So that actually all, I mean, if we actually took it even more far, then we could also talk about the Third Crusade, how that impacted actually, the Crusades in general, how that affected the area, which basically made the rise of the Ottomans and the Mongol invasion even easier.
Yeah.
But I think we didn't bring that up in the video. But I think it's just so fascinating how interconnected all this actually is.
Oh, yeah. No, I completely agree with you there. One thing I would say is, do you think the Despotate, if events had gone differently, do you think it could have reclaimed the mantle and become the true successor to the Byzantine Empire? I think the cards were stacked against it. I mean, in some ways, it was well located to retake Constantinople and really legitimize itself as the successor to the Byzantine Empire, but it was sandwiched between other successor states, eventually the Ottomans and other powers from the East, not to mention everything that was going up north with, like, Serbia, Bulgaria, not to mention the various crusades that came in, the Italian states. I just think there was too much. I don't think it could have worked, honestly. It had too much going against it.
That's true on the one hand. On the other hand, I think it kind of depends also on the political situation in Asia Minor. Because I think that was a key factor which influenced things going on also in Greece or in the region of Greece. Because, I mean, we had the Ottoman Empire. Ottoman is actually a great name if you refer to it like as a mean empire. The Ottoman Empire, the rise of them was in parts possible because of a vacuum of power in Asia Minor.
Yeah.
So let's say the power vacuum was less. There was less power vacuum in Asia Minor that would have definitely slowed down the rise of the Ottomans if they were rising at all. But on the other hand, the centralization of power in Asia Minor shouldn't have been too strong neither to affect Greece. So only if there was the right balance in Asia Minor, that would have made way free for the Despotate of Epirus to do anything in Greece and from there consolidate its power.
But even with that, don't you think the Black Death, which essentially depopulated large swaths of what was Epirus and, Southeast Europe, which kind of made room for the other peoples to move in time, do you think, that had such a dramatic effect. I still think that could have been kind of like a death blow to whatever was going on there, regardless of what was going on in Asia Minor.
Possible, but we shouldn't forget that the other countries were also affected by the Black Death.
True.
So
to varying degrees, of course. Some areas were hit worse than others.
Yeah, that's true. So it's hard to say. It also depends in which situation the Despotate of Epirus is struck by the Black Death. If they were kind of stable, then there would have been higher chances than if they were basically a failed state, and then there comes the Black Death on top of it.
True.
And so it's difficult to say. So I think the chances were pretty low that they could have made it. But there were some moments in history where they almost made that happen.
Yeah. No, I would agree.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to ask you a question that we've seen pop up in the comments. We've been asked the question. We've also seen some people comment on it. What do you think? The Epirots, are they Greek? Are they Hellenistic? What are they?
Yeah. So I think basically the truth is, it's kind of like, it's not black and white. I think it's many shades of gray, as is basically always the case.
Wasn't that your favorite movie?
Yeah, absolutely. 50 Shades of Grey. Yeah, absolutely. I love that movie. No, honestly, I think I never even watched that.
Don't lie to the audience.
If I want to watch these kind of videos, I can just use other websites. So are they Epirots or are they Hellenistic or whatever? I think they are a mix. And what I mean is, Epirus was more or less in a region which was anyway, even in the ancient world, a kind of in-between. They were never really Hellenistic, but they were also not Illyrians at that time. And then with the events of the Black Death, where a lot of, let's say, what we would probably consider Greek people died, and a lot of other people coming in, I think that Epirots are kind of a distinct thing. They're they're its own. They're neither Greek nor Balkans completely.
Well, and I do want to just reiterate the point you mentioned there, which is when you look at the region today, Epirus, what was Epirus? it's not inherently Greek. But like you mentioned, that's because you had a depopulation of the area because of the Black Death, because of war, conflict, the movement of peoples in and out of the area. The whole point I'm trying to say is the historic region has changed dramatically over the decades and centuries. And the same is true all over the world. I mean, we don't even have to go that far, but look at Asia Minor. There were massive population changes with Turkish people coming in, the movement of, Greek, Pontic, Armenians, other groups. It was very much in flux. And what we could think of a historic region, which once was populated by one group, is very different today. That's really just the point I wanted to make.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, especially in Europe, I think there are so many countries where it's not that easy to say, yeah, for example, they are Germans. If you refer to nowadays Germans, of course, that's pretty easy. But if you refer to the Germanic tribes, then I think most of the people living in Germany can't go back until this time, where their ancestors were. Also because from that area, they spread basically throughout Europe. So it's hard to say, because movements of people, especially on such a small territory, which actually Europe actually is, that's always going to affect the population. Yeah. And changes are basically not uncommon.
Yeah, no, I agree. But, well, long story short, I thought the Despotate of Epirus, the 2 videos, were very interesting. If you guys have not checked them out, I encourage you to do so. Feel free to leave a comment, that really helps out with the algorithm, or share the video. And we will be revisiting both other Byzantine successor states and continuing the story of Epirus in future videos to come. But right now, as long as you're good with it, I think we could move on to Q&A.
Okay. So we got our Q&A.
Oh, wait. I want to go first here. I got a comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, let me go first. Okay, so we received a question from The Unknown Past, another historical YouTube channel, and definitely check out his channel as well. But anyway, so his comment was, this was a fantastic video. I love watching Q&A videos in general. Great work, bro. For my question, I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on the Corsican/Sardinian flag, history of it, and is it racist? Thank you. So I think that's a pretty interesting question, because we were just talking about that somewhat recently before we even got it, right?
Yeah, that's actually the really funny thing. I don't even know how we got to that flag. I think it was because we were discussing flags in our flag tier list, I think. And I think we were considering which flags to put in, and there was also that one of Corsica that I think we didn't put in, right?
No, we did not have it in, because we have not covered it yet. And I mean, we did include...
I know how it appeared.
Uh-huh.
Because I think you told me about that one thing in Corsica with that independence movement on that one guy.
Yeah, because one of the Corsican nationalist guys was killed in prison recently, and that set off all these protests.
Yeah, so I think in that context we talked about this.
Yeah. Honestly, I would love to cover Corsica in a future episode, and I'm pretty sure, we say this all the time, but I'm pretty sure we will cover Corsica in a future dedicated Ghost Countries episode. But going to the flag, so I'm going to put the designs on screen when editing this video, but the flag of Corsica and the flag of Sardinia both have a Moorish head, the beheaded head of a Moor. Now, the Corsican flag is just one head, and the Sardinian flag is actually 4 heads, but the story behind it is actually kind of interesting. Now, I would like to explore this more in depth when we actually do a video about Corsica, but the brief understanding I have of it, according to Wikipedia, among other sources, is that the Moorish head, at least in relation to the Corsican flag, became a popular motif after a Corsican woman named Diana was captured by Moorish slavers sometime in the 13th century, who planned on selling her in a slave market in Granada. Now, her fiancé, Pablo, managed to free her, and a battle ensued between the Corsicans and the Moors, during which the Moorish leader Mansur ben Ismail was beheaded, and his severed head then became a symbol of Corsica in remembrance of the event. Now, the design has changed many times over the centuries. At times, the blindfold has covered the head. At other times, it has been above it. This has symbolism to a whole bunch of things relating to not just Corsica's history, but also what was occurring then internally with the politics of the island. So that's the story behind the Corsican flag. And the Sardinian flag is a bit more of a mystery. Again, it's a Moor's head with a red cross. But I looked into this a little bit, and, well, it's four heads, as I mentioned, but it seems kind of mixed. It may be in reference to various battles that happened in what is now, Spain, the Iberian Peninsula with the Reconquista. It may be in relation to some of the other battles that occurred against the Moors at that period of time. There seems to be a mixture of where it may have come from, but I'm trying to remember. There was like the Battle of Alcaraz in 1069. So long story short, that one has a lot of, a similar history in relation to that it was battles against the Moors and the Moorish people. So, yeah, I've been kind of on a rant here, but what are your thoughts on the flags?
I gotta admit, I was searching for the flag right now, and I saw some flags in here, which I'm pretty sure are not accurate.
Oh, I'm sure of that. And I'll be honest, some of the earlier designs of the flags are, they're very different looking.
Yeah. No, I think I found a meme website. Oh, it's on Reddit. Yeah, it's a meme, but I will post that, I think, because I think that's funny.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the design looks interesting, even though I gotta say there are some where it looks cooler than on others.
Yeah, I would agree. I think just my 2 cents here. I kind of said this in our flag videos as well. I think when it's more simplified and streamlined, it looks a lot cooler than when they're trying to go for something more detailed or realistic.
Yeah. So it's actually very interesting that both those islands have a similar one.
Yeah.
And the story behind it is also, I mean, actually I like it when flags are influenced by local stories.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I would say unfortunately, but nowadays, especially in Europe, we got the tricolor basically.
Yeah.
Or the most of the times. Yeah. So, I mean, I get it why, but I feel flags are telling a lot more about your country if it's like a story, or it displays a story which defines the place where you are.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But it is what it is. But I think the unique design of it's not unique, it's binique, because it's both have that flag.
That's true, but I think there's very few flags in the world that feature a severed head on the flag.
Yeah. So I think, even though some designs I don't like, in general I think the flag's pretty cool.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I like the design overall, and I do like you said, like that it's connected to the island's history. I find that interesting.
So coming back to the question that we got, if we consider that racist, if you look at the background story, I think it's not.
Mm-hmm.
If it was just, I mean, without an actual reason, I think we could discuss this, but since that is a story very important for the place, I think it makes sense why it is there.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree.
I mean, people might argue, is that too, how am I going to say this? Aggressive, or like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But that's basically the only thing we could discuss. Like, for example, some national anthems, which are like too aggressive or whatever in many people's eyes.
Well, speaking about is it too aggressive? This is going off topic, although it's still flag related. Mozambique is, to my knowledge, the only national flag that features an AK-47 on it because of the War of Independence. No, but there's still an ongoing debate. The flag has not changed, but within the country about should we change the flag, because this is referencing a very violent chapter of our past. Yes, it is our history, and yes, it is important, but do we want an AK-47 feature that prominently? So that is interesting. It just kind of came to mind when you were saying that.
Yeah. So, short answer, I don't think it is racist seen in the context, but I can understand if people think that when they see it first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. And yeah, but I would say overall, I think it's a pretty interesting design. And I think we'll definitely explore the history of Corsica and Sardinia at some point in the near future, because I think there is a story to be told there and it deserves to be told. So, yeah. Do you want me to handle the next question?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. So the next question we get from Mark, you should see it on screen now, and it was thoughts on the evolution of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Would like to see episode or episodes regarding this period. Thanks. I definitely will say that is something we've wanted to cover for a long time as well, because there's just so much to be said about Austria-Hungary. I mean, if we're even just looking at its, later history, I mean, this was one of the preeminent multinational, multi-ethnic major powers in Europe up until, the conclusion of World War I. And then even after that, it's fractioning, it's balkanizing, if we're using more modern vernacular. But the point is, as it broke up, its, lines were drawn that still continue to influence events, and obviously did up to World War II and even beyond that. So I think there is a fascinating story to be told there, and I would love to explore it. But it is interesting. It is interesting because Austria, via the Habsburg, played a very prominent role throughout most of European history. And it's just interesting to see how this evolution occurred in, I guess you could say, like the southern Germanic peoples, while different events occurred up north. But, I mean, you can speak maybe more to that than I can, but I'm just saying it's very interesting to see how the development of Austria-Hungary differed from the development of Germany up to this period of time, and then how World War I shattered both of them, and things changed very differently from that point onward.
Yeah, I mean, the whole story of the Habsburg is anyway super interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong, but don't you have like some roots back in the Austria-Hungary?
Yeah. No, actually, on my dad's side of the family, we have both Austrian and Hungarian. And I do not remember the name of the village, but my family members from that side actually came from a village that literally was on the border of what was then Austria and Hungary within the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So it's about as mixed as you can get in that sense.
Yeah. No, so coming back to the question, I've been to Vienna once, and I was actually kind of impressed of a lot of things. And yeah, the interesting thing about Austria is actually that it started out as relatively small.
Yeah.
And made such a big impact, because what most people know is that they had this personal union or whatever with with Hungary, but it was not only this. It was also Croatia. It was also Bohemia, which was very important, and I think there was also a third one that I now forgot, but or a fourth in this case. So, and these were major powers. Bohemia played a large role throughout a lot of Germany's history, or the HRE, the Holy Roman Empire.
Was it Croatia, or am I wrong with that?
Yeah, it was Croatia, but I mentioned that. But there was another one, I think. I think there was another one, but I might be wrong about this.
Okay.
But it's fascinating. Also, like I mean, a little off topic, for people who are interested in that, Europa Universalis 4, play with Austria, and you will understand what I mean. It's like, I know it's a game, but it also has a lot of historical background, and you will definitely find that out during the game.
And I think we might as well just make a mention here. Let's plays for historical video games and stuff. It's something we've considered on the channel.
Oh yeah, definitely we would love to do it, but we kind of have the feeling like not enough people would want to watch that.
Yeah, but I mean, if you guys feel differently, let us know in the comments down below. I mean, I feel like I say that all the time, but seriously, just let us know if you'd like to see videos like that. It's something we've thought about. I mean, you could also mix in horror video games, ghost countries,
Yeah. Oh, Phasmophobia?
Yeah, Phasmophobia still.
So what I was going to say, the story of Austria-Hungary was very interesting. And actually a thing that I feel most people don't really know is that there was actually the possibility of, when Germany was founding itself, there were debates if Austria should be included.
True.
And that would have also made things a lot different. Of course, then the whole different foreign policy, Bismarck and stuff, he would have probably done that in a different way. And who knows if that would have actually worked out. But I'm just going to say there were debates about this, what I think was very interesting. Okay, Hitler some centuries later or some decades later was just like, yeah, well, it's ours. But yeah, I kind of feel it's very, very interesting.
But imagine
and for people
that.
who are not from Europe, they very often don't understand this.
Yeah, no, but I was just going to say, imagine that. Imagine if that had occurred and you had this big, unified Germanic empire, but at the same time, very much, I guess you could say in some similar ways to the United States during, that period of time onwards, you would have had like two spheres of like cultural influence within there. You would have had North and South. That would have been fascinating to see what direction, European and particularly German or Germanic history would have gone.
Yeah, I mean, and that would have also changed a lot because with Austria not being in the German Empire, that obviously gave a lot of power to the Prussians.
True.
Because they were then like basically the most powerful state in there.
So maybe there would have been a little more balance with Austria. Yeah,
maybe more balance, but also maybe Austria being stronger than Prussia.
True.
I don't know exactly at that time if that's true or not, but yeah, definitely interesting.
Yeah, so hopefully that answered your question, but I definitely think we will explore this further in a future video at some point. Again, I say that on almost everyone. We want to cover so many different countries, but we want to work on getting our views and other stuff up a little bit before we tackle some of these bigger countries that I think are going to require multi-parter episodes at the bare minimum. But okay, moving on to the next question we had from Kirby Ward 2001. I have always liked British history pre-Viking. How did these countries come to be, and why did they disappear? That's another very interesting question because there's a lot to unpack with that. I mean, so like by the mid-9th century, you had various, kingdoms in Anglo-Saxon England, such as East Anglia, Wessex, Northumbria, Mercia, and these, well, more or less formed, I guess you could say, somewhat organically. Now, prior to the Anglo-Saxons, you had other people within the British Isles, such as the Picts, the Scots, the Britons. And then, of course, later in time, you would have the Normans enter. And so the point is, things would change many times. You had a lot of movement of people. And these kingdoms, the pre-Viking kingdoms, popped up during that period of time. Now, the Vikings came over I think it began in the 8th century, like the 780s, is when the Vikings first began to attack some Christian monasteries in the British Isles. And those only intensified in time. And, what became originally like slave raids and pillaging eventually became more of a permanent Viking presence. You eventually got the, invasion in like 865 and that eventually ended up with the Danelaw. So the Vikings established themselves, and you had more of a Norse presence, a permanent presence in the British Isles. And so that's kind of what brought an end to these pre-Viking kingdoms over time, in part. I mean, then again, the Vikings eventually would go away as well, and you had other groups come in. So the whole point I'm trying to get to is there's a lot to unpack here, but it was basically an ebb and flow of the original people, the indigenous people of the islands, and then others who would come over from Europe or Scandinavia, part of Europe. But anyway, they would come over through invasions and migration, and some of them would assimilate, some of them would conquer. It was a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah. So I don't know if Kirby Ward knows this, but there's actually a pretty good book series about this. And I mean, depending on how you want to call it, the Saxon Stories or The Last Kingdom, from Bernard Cornwell. I think these are pretty good books. And there's also a series, I think it's on Netflix now, which is called The Last Kingdom. And this is exactly about that period of time, and very, very interesting. It's basically dealing with Alfred the Great. So yeah, basically exactly in this period, and therefore very, very interesting and very well done, in my opinion. Yeah. So if you don't know it, take a look at it. I was reading it, and I was also watching the series. I think they're worth watching. For the most part, pretty accurate. Of course, there's some differences, but for the most part, they tried their best to be very accurate.
Historically accurate, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so, okay. I definitely recommend checking those out as well. I was trying to think of another book, but I can't remember the title or the author, so that's unfortunate. Maybe I'll pin a comment or something, or put something in the video. But okay, moving on to what I believe is our final question. Now, this actually wasn't on our Q&A video, but I felt like including it. It was on a recent poll on the community tab. Just in case you guys haven't checked it out, give the community tab a look every now and then. We post, some infographics, polls, updates on the channel, stuff like that there. And on one of our recent polls, talking about, well, what do you think should have happened with Hong Kong? Obviously, it was handed over to the People's Republic of China, mainland China. But barring realism, what do you think should have happened? Should that have occurred? Should it have become independent? Should the British have retained it? Should it have been given to the ROC, Taiwan? We had a comment from Riley Brock, who said, Hong Kong getting independence is and was a very unrealistic option. How exactly would they be able to maintain it? I'd say the British were their only hope, though even maintaining what they had there would have led to an international incident, most likely. Now, we already responded to this comment on the poll, but I thought it was a good comment and worth talking about a little bit more here. So, Geist, you've got a lot of background in China, so I thought you would like to bring that up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what the comment actually suggested is kind of true. Many people actually just see the handover in 1997, but there was also, there were things going on even previous to this, and there was a considerable amount of pressure from the People's Republic of China to hand Hong Kong back over.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong,
China.
But during the negotiations with Margaret Thatcher and, I feel like I'm going to mispronounce the name here, but Deng Xiaoping, didn't China basically say flat out, if this broke down, if negotiations did not go forward, they were going to take it back by force?
I don't know if they were saying this exactly like this, but I can imagine they did that. But I can't verify that exactly. But it might be true. But what I definitely know is that they were threatening with the water situation, since most of it came from the People's Republic of China. And that could have also influenced the situation in Hong Kong. And so basically the agreement to do this was actually done, I think, in 1984, so 13 years prior. Yeah, so it's definitely true that, I mean, probably Great Britain could have resisted, even though it's worth saying it. Hong Kong was also not a real democracy when the British were there.
Mm-hmm.
It was still a colony. But about them getting independence, it's true this wouldn't have been very realistic. The only chance they would have had is like basically a mandate from the United Nations that protect or guarantees the independence of them, but I don't think that was realistic at that time and not even really wanted by a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's an important point to stress when you look at, and I mean, of course, you can talk about the biases of polling, but still, most polls did indicate that most of the population of Hong Kong did want to, correct me if I'm wrong here, but go back to China at that period in time. Now, that has shifted in the decades since, but in that initial phase, there was a lot of, I guess I could say, enthusiasm or at least optimism about what this could have brought to to Hong Kong.
And I mean, I kind of get it, because we should not forget that the China of that time was not the same as the China that it is nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, even though there was the Tiananmen Square massacre, except for this, it was kind of looking like China is opening up to the world and growing quickly. So the chances were high that China would go more the way like Hong Kong instead of Hong Kong the China way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that was what many people were hoping for.
Well, that was a working theory.
Of Hong Kong.
Wasn't that a theory for quite a long time that, Hong Kong would bring about democratization or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, there was also the theory of what was that? Change through trade or something like that?
No, basically, more trade and interaction. It decreases the chance of war, but also increases like market reform, democratization, human rights, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, so this was kind of like what many people believed was going to happen, basically up to, well, the later half of the terms of Xi Jinping. Yeah, so, I mean, I'm saying this in the year 2022. So if he lives for another 50 years, forget what I was saying. Yeah, so it's nowadays, from our perspective, it's easy to say, like, yeah, I mean, that was not realistic. Maybe it wasn't. I was not really alive at that time. I was, but I was 6 years old when this happened.
How old are you?
When this happened?
How old?
No. 51.
51, okay.
By the way, my math was always very good. No, so it's hard for me to see from that perspective of that time, because there was a lot of optimism around. But I do agree, independence would have been unrealistic. Giving it back to the Republic of China, so Taiwan, was also not really a thing because there was no incentive basically for anybody. Mm-hmm. And yeah, who knows how this would have ended if they didn't. I mean, for example, we saw something, admittedly, that was Stalin, but the blockade of Berlin, for example, and I could imagine something like this. They would have tried something like this with Hong Kong. I can imagine.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, I'm not going to say it would have gone exactly like this, but the thing that always comes to mind for me is the Falklands War with Argentina. And I'm not saying that's exactly how things would have gone, but in one respect, it would have been similar. It's the United Kingdom would have been handling maybe an active conflict or an international crisis of some sort, basically on the other side of the world. And that's not an easy task, as we saw in the Falklands War as well. That was, the British did eventually win that conflict, but still, it was a logistical challenge, to say the least.
And we might also want to say the handover of Hong Kong to China was a huge win for China, actually. Because at that time, I don't know exactly the numbers, but I think 20% of the GDP of whole China was Hong Kong.
Yeah, so it's definitely significant.
So yeah, that's pretty big. Don't kill me if the number's wrong, but I think I think it was around 20%. So yeah, rather big.
Well,
and also for the prestige, it was very important for China to show like, hey, we are back. There are no colonies left over here.
Well, you know what else got 20%? In the poll, so we had, like I said, 4 options. Hong Kong should have been turned over to China. Hong Kong should have been a British territory. Should have remained a British territory, excuse me. Hong Kong should have become independent, and Hong Kong should have been turned over to the ROC, Taiwan. 20% of our 45 votes at the time of this recording believed it should have remained a British territory. The winner, and I actually have been noting a trend on our channel, is Hong Kong should have become independent. And I've noted that trend with like Kashmir and other polls we've done. But so it's interesting to kind of gauge the audience. And of course, you guys can still go and vote there. We'd love to see more people vote and hear your opinions and stuff. But yeah.
Yeah.
So oh, yes.
So I just did a quick check because I didn't want to give out fake news. I found the number 18%, which
18%.
is okay. Sorry, it was not 20; it was 18%. I'm sorry.
Well, okay. Were there any other questions you wanted to cover now, or do you want to move on to top comments?
No, I'd like to move on to top comments, and I would do the first one.
Okay, cool.
Which is from Baffled Waffle.
Okay.
And he was replying to our Wallachia video. So he was writing, I'm a Romanian and I cannot express how good this video is. The quality was way better than expected and it had all the important details explained in a very accurate way. So yeah, I saw this video and this kind of made me happy.
Yeah, it's a nice comment.
It's always good to hear from people who are from the actual area.
True.
That they like the video or not. Because for us, this is very important because if we get a lot of people from the area who are saying, yeah, look, this is not accurate. This is also important for us to learn from that and to maybe adjust things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But especially like if you hear from there, hey, this is well done. This means we did our work, our background research good. And this kind of makes happy.
I'd agree 100%.
So thanks a lot, Baffled Waffle.
Wasn't there another comment like actually I think we got a few comments from people from
there Romania. Was also another one, but yeah, there were a couple of Romanians. There was
it's
one guy who said that Wallachia was actually a word from Germanic origins, describing people from Western Europe. But I don't remember. Sorry, man, I don't remember the name.
Oh, it's
yeah.
I still agree with you though. That's a very nice comment, and I also thought that was a very good video. Very interesting video to do research on and make. So cool. Well, moving on to another comment, I was going to highlight a comment by Zachary Jacob that we got on our short about the conflict over in Burma or Myanmar. And he said, longest ongoing civil war, almost 75 years, ethnic cleansing, over 50 paramilitary groups fighting central government and each other, the Rohingya genocide, 1 million internally displaced people, 2021 coup, people today, haha, Karen Liberation Army, LOL. And I thought that was a pretty good comment because it is kind of true. You've got such a significant event going on, and kind of you got you did get news coverage for a while, of course. There was a time when the world couldn't ignore it, but now it's like maybe you'll get an antidote every so often and or memes. I thought it was on point.
Yeah, that's true. I actually wanted to take this comment as well, but Ghost was faster than me.
Yeah, I found it first. I screenshot it. Okay.
Yeah. So going on to the next one, that's kind of difficult. There was one from CJ Clark, which I thought works out. The misrepresentation of Robespierre and the info I was taught in regards to our public educational system doesn't surprise me as much as it should. I significantly enjoyed his last monologue, before he was executed. So the point why I actually like this comment is it's actually funny. Like, for example, also with me, what I learned in school about the French Revolution, and this comment is more than likely in our first French Republic Part 1. I learned the French Revolution a lot in school, and I also learned there was a lot of violence involved in the Great Terror and everything. So really horrible things going on. But it was kind of, when I did the research, I was like, that is actually even more horrible than I actually thought. So yeah, and especially the role of Robespierre in it. A very bad thing is actually that I always confuse the names, and I know they're totally different. Voltaire, Robespierre, and Montesquieu. Montesquieu. So it's like, I don't know why I'm confusing these names. I shouldn't, I know, but it's it's fascinating, and there was so much more to the story than I thought, because first of all, I was planning to make it a one-parter, and then while I was writing the script, I was like, okay, this could also be a 3-parter if I actually wanted to, or maybe even a 4-parter.
Yeah.
Because there was just so much to the story, and we had to cut so much down than what actually could have been in the video.
Hey, I'm telling you, one day we're going to make the 1 hour long video just covering everything from beginning to end. You're not going to miss anything. We'll see how that does.
Yeah, but then probably we'll still have people like, oh yeah, you forgot this.
Yeah. Well, then we make another 1 hour part correcting.
1 hour, 1 hour, 1 minute.
Oh my God.
No, but and also, I don't know if I ever made mention of this. I know I sound like a nerd when I say this, but there was also a very good game for this. I think I mentioned that game already once.
Oh, you did? I know the one you're talking about. I don't remember the title, but go on.
We, the Revolution.
There we go.
It is basically a game where you are a judge during the French Revolution, and you all the time gotta watch out, because you gotta, do trials, and gotta watch out that the revolutionaries don't get mad at you, that the popular masses don't get angry at you, and that the third faction, so basically the royalists, don't get too mad at you neither. So it's like, but there's, of course, I think it was the royalists, the third faction, but I'm not sure about this. So you always had to watch out, and also with your family to watch out that you basically get everybody safe through the French Revolution. Because if there is a period of time where you wouldn't like to have a job like this, then it's during the French Revolution.
Yeah.
Because if you spare somebody who, in the eyes of most people, shouldn't be spared, then suddenly you are in the
guillotine.
Or at least under research.
Yeah.
So it's a very emotional, very atmospheric game, and it's not like it has a very slow pace, but it's very well done, and the atmosphere definitely gets to you.
Yeah, no, I could imagine that. I've never actually played the game, but I've played similar games, so I'll definitely have to check that one out.
Because you get into that moment where you're like, okay, that man, he was basically stealing something, which was not good, but they want to see the death penalty for him because they say he's a counter-revolutionary, but he's actually not. But the people actually think that. So you gotta see for yourself, okay, if I declare him like he has to go to prison, I might land under the guillotine.
I mean, to be fair, the last game I'm trying to think that... I know Red Dead Redemption 2 definitely got me emotionally tied up. Yeah. When Arthur Morgan died, come on, I lived with that character for...
Spoiler!
I guess, but I mean, who hasn't played it at this point who wants to play it?
Me!
Well, okay, I'm sorry, but it was a game I played when the pandemic first began, and it's like, that it was a very good story, character development, everything. But anyway, I'm going off topic because we only have time for one last question or comment, and I'm just going to say it right now. So this was on one of our Epirus videos. Someone spotted one of the Easter eggs, which was the Burger King paper or cardboard crown. And I thought they had a pretty good comment at 10:05. The legendary crown of all crowns, the cardboard halo, the double Whopper with cheese, the crown of kings. And I'm glad someone took note, putting that PNG in there. Glad someone acknowledged that. I will give one last comment to close this episode out with. And it was by Tyler's Truly. Why is this so underrated on our, the Battle of Nazi video? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Why is it so underrated? The algorithm, or what? But I don't know. But you guys here's the horrible YouTuber plug, but you guys can help change that by liking, commenting, and sharing the videos. Ugh.
Yeah. And guys, we always repeat that, but it's actually really important for us because we notice we are really thankful for every interaction that people give us, but it's not enough right now to get us boosted in the algorithm.
Yeah.
And that's actually a big problem. So thanks to everybody who already likes everything, and for the others, it would be nice if you could sometimes give us a like because it really helps us out.
Yeah, even as like you said, a simple like. If you don't want to comment, a simple like is actually it helps. It helps.
I mean, I get that when people say I don't want to comment or anything. This definitely helps out also the comments, but likes would already be a big thing. And for those of you who are maybe interested in talking directly with us, here comes the next plug.
Yeah, go for it.
Our Discord server is up.
Yeah.
So yeah, give it a try if you want. We cover basically everything from world geopolitics, to history, gaming, food, whatever.
Anime, yeah, anything.
Yeah, anything. So yeah, join us on our servers. We don't bite, I promise.
No, and we're definitely trying to grow that. So if you guys want to come on over, there is a link on the channel homepage, and you should also see one in the description for this podcast. And if you don't, just comment and I can always send you the link or whatever, invite link. And on that note, hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you again next time. Peace.
Yep. Bye.